Can you leave your thing there so it doesn't keep going?
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Morning.
Who's on here? I'm gonna put my glasses on.
Well, I see Billy's on, but I don't see his.
I thought I heard his voice.
He's on.
Technical problems, guys. I'll get it.
Okay.
We're confident with you in you doing that, Billy.
There we go.
There's Commissioner Combs.
See the camera.
Good morning. Good morning. Connected audio. For the record, you see Aaron Thomas from my office is over there helping Commissioner Hammond with his first course.
Welcome, Tommy.
Aaron, can you hear me? I guess not.
Okay, good.
Hello, Commissioner Gore.
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everyone.
Same to you. Commissioner Hammond, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
I was wondering if I should have sent somebody besides the Yeah.
Got Aaron over here. Trying to keep me.
Okay. Let me start off by saying welcome to the new Precinct 3 Commissioner, Tommy Hammond. Welcome. We're here to help you, whatever we can do. You know, I actually got Aaron there helping you this morning. So I sent the B team. Lauren's still here. All right. Chambers County Commissioner Court come to order. This is a regular meeting on Tuesday, 12th day of January, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. It is a new year. I kind of feel like we got a hangover from 2020, but it's going to be a good year. We've got a lot of county employees, families who have been struck by the COVID. So I want you to remember those this morning. Corey Taylor, County Engineer, is going to pray for us. Anybody else? I know. Anybody else? Commissioner Gore?
We just need to keep Yale DeVillier and his family in our prayers. He's going through a lot of tests right now to get some answers to some stuff he's going through, and we need to really keep him in our prayers.
Yeah, it's Judge DeVillier. All right, Corey.
Lord God, we just come to you now, and we just thank you for your love for us. We just praise you as being the creator of all things. We thank you for sending Jesus Christ to be our Savior, and we just implore you as we come to you to just watch over us and guide us. We do just ask for your protection and healing in so many families that are hurting. We pray for protection from COVID. We pray for the DeVilliers and other families that are needing peace and comfort and direction. And we just ask for that for our employees and for our residents. Just watch over us and guide us and direct us. And we do pray for that as well today, Father, is that we pray that we don't just do our work for ourselves, but we do our work for you. And we just pray that all that we do, that we just shine your light in this world. And we do pray for a good and better 21. And we pray all these things in Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen.
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 All right, I pulled up the flag, and so we're going to say the pledges now. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic,
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you.
Hey, Judge.
Sir.
Apparently someone thought I was doing my job and I was being salty, so they got me a big salt grinder.
That's funny. Okay, no citizens I think Mary Beth's on the phone to give us a COVID update. Mary Beth, you there? You're muted if you can hear me.
*6.
*6.
That's also one of the same.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can y'all hear me?
We can hear you.
Still. Okay, so Happy New Year, everyone, and I apologize I'm not there via Zoom. So I'd like to start out by saying that I think that our numbers right now reflect what we have been experiencing over the past month and what we expect over the next several weeks. These cases from Thanksgiving, from Christmas, from New Year's. So I'd like to just start off by giving you totals, and then I'll talk about vaccines and just in general public health measures. So the last numbers we've actually were on January the 6th. And so I do have numbers for the 7th. We actually we reported our report 64 cases, which I don't know that we've ever reported 64 cases in one day, and the 8th, 68 cases, which for us is just, it's a lot of cases in one day. So that brings our total for those 2 days to total in the county 3,297 cases. We currently have 442 active cases. And just to put this into perspective, December 1st, we had 226 active cases. And if you remember, I want to say maybe October the 1st, I think we were like at 30 active cases. So currently this represents about a 50% or a close to 60% increase in just our total number of cases, not active cases, total number of cases in just a 1 month period of time, and a 96% increase in active cases in a 1 month period of time. Overall, we are 14th. Currently, we are 14th in the state of Texas for average number of cases per 100,000 population. And what this does is just kind of levels the playing field, looking at every county in Texas, number of new cases over a 14-day period. So what that does is it basically says per 100,000 population, we're averaging about 161 cases. And that's just not good. If you look at the map of Texas, it puts us really high, like we're in the darkest maroon. So it just really just means to have widespread community. And so everything we do to slow the spread, masking, urging people to stay at home, not gathering in those settings, just being really vigilant, hand washing, cleaning, things like that. It's just kind of spreading like wildfire. And so kind of moving forward, the big thing right now is vaccines. And I'll tell you that we've been, we're currently finishing up vaccinating 1A, which are the frontline and healthcare workers. There's currently 5 vaccine providers in the county, and that includes us, on the west side, HEB, West Chambers Medical Center was just allocated doses last week. So those are the only 2 providers on the west side are those 2. Mid-county, it's only us. And then on the east side of the county, it's Berkshire Brothers and then Riceland Healthcare. So we've all been vaccinating 1A. Several of those places have already moved along to 1B, and we anticipate that we will be able to also move along to 1B. But again, as a public health initiative, we know that we have to catch all of those in 1A. Our ability, not just our ability, but the entire county who have received allocations, our ability to vaccinate more people also depends on DSHS's allocation of vaccines to us in the county. So not only the allocation, but our ability to have people to get shots in arms. So as we receive more allocations, us as a public health department will partner with our local EMS partners, other school nurses, volunteers from our health clinics to do drive-throughs, and we're currently working on logistics for that. But again, we have to secure more doses from DSHS, and that decision is not made by us, it's made by DSHS. You probably also saw, we did release information on Sunday that DSHS realized this, that they could, allocate all the doses they wanted to different places throughout the state, but that getting people to actually give those doses was lacking. What they did was made 28 hubs throughout the state of Texas in larger, I guess, jurisdictions throughout the state to be able to do more vaccinations every day. So the closest ones to Chambers County are in Harris County, I think the city of Houston, as well as Harris County. And so we put that information, we've released that information. I know we shared it. I think that Samantha has also helped us in that effort. The ability to register, we've posted all that information. We will also share that again today. Each entity in Chambers County who is vaccinating has their own registration process, and just know that we are pushing this effort and we will continually publicize how to register. An email was sent last week to all department heads and elected officials. We just ask that we share this information. We just really need for department heads and elected officials to share this information with their employees. It just kind of cuts down on the number of phone calls sometimes that we get about vaccinations because we do share information, and we just, if people would just pass this information along, we will continually keep people updated on that. I think that's all I have. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All I was going to say is that's all I have. But again, as we receive information, we will push this information out. I'll entertain any questions. I think so far Chambers County has been allocated 1,900 doses throughout all 5 of those providers. On the website, it shows that 777 doses have been given. But again, this lags behind because, again, we enter these into Amtrak. So.
Hey, Mary Beth.
Yes, sir.
I know you and I spoke, but I mean, can you give a little bit of clarification that when these doses are allocated to the county and to each one of these entities, that, I mean, they have their own protocol and how they distribute these shots that's not in our control?
So correct. So whenever each entity is allocated doses. And so say, for example, whenever we went to like Patient CR and we vaccinated people at Patient CR, a lot of those people who work at Patient CR may live in our jurisdiction, but sometimes they may live in another jurisdiction. So it just depends on their jurisdiction. If HEB is vaccinating people who live in Chambers County for 1A, they may live in this jurisdiction, they may work. Vice versa, people may, work at Methodist Hospital downtown and they may be receiving their vaccination somewhere else. So DSHS allocates those doses, but public health doesn't have a say in how people actually are giving their doses. But DSHS is allocating those doses based on Chambers County population, if that makes sense.
But those other folks that HEB and Ryerson, they had to turn in a vaccination plan just like we did, correct?
Correct. So whenever you apply to be a provider of COVID vaccine, it's a very lengthy process, and you're applying to give doses based on the population in Chambers County and what population you're serving, whether it's over 65, whether it's people with underlying health conditions, whether it's healthcare workers. But you're absolutely correct. It's based on Chambers County's population.
Okay, Mary Beth, if we're getting our 1,900 based on our population and the other ones, how has that been distributed amongst the 5 different authorized people that's given the vaccine?
So that's a really good question. So, initially, I think HEB, received 100, Berkshire's Brothers received 200, we received 200, and Riceland received 500. I can't even begin to know how DSHS decided to allocate those initial doses, but I will say that hospital systems initially did receive more doses because I think that they served bigger healthcare populations. But I can't even venture to guess how they did decide to allocate those initial doses. But I know my understanding is that as we move into the different phases, like right now, 1B, as they look at the populations we serve, I think our allocations will go up, and we can ask them for a larger allocation. But again, it's not guaranteed because now they've opened up these hubs. But just know that we are pounding the pavement and asking them that as a rural healthcare provider, as public health, that we do intend to partner with other agencies to do some vaccination drives. So we are really working on this hard and heavy.
So is Mary Beth, the 500 that Riceland received, is that the total they received? I know they're big in Jefferson County also.
So they did receive 500. Whenever I look at the vaccine dashboard, which anyone can look at, if you go to DSHS website, on the right-hand side, it gives you every week's allocations. Anyone can look at this. They received 500. I think we all received ours in week 2. They received 500 in week 2, and then they received an additional 500 in the next week also. So, and they have worked with us in vaccinating our frontline and healthcare workers. And but I am aware that they do have several clinics and several other facilities in other counties, including Jefferson County.
Mary Beth, you may have said this, but if you did, it went over my head. I know Harris County Methodist Hospital's been giving out on the AB or the next step for some time now, and they're actually getting ready to move on down. Why is it Harris County's getting more vaccines and stuff, and we're not able to move to our 1B yet?
So that's a good question. So first of all, they received their allocations almost 2 weeks before we did, and they received the Pfizer vaccine, and they received a lot of vaccine initially. That's the first part of that. Second of all, they have a lot more staff and a greater ability to vaccinate. And so they have many hospital systems, public health. They have a lot of people vaccinating, whereas in our county, say initially we only had 4 vaccine providers receive a small amount of vaccine, and everyone who received vaccine is currently in response. So everyone who received vaccine is currently responding to the pandemic, whether it be at a doctor's office, a hospital, public health, or a pharmacy chain. So they're trying to vaccinate as well as, currently in response mode to the pandemic. So, it's very difficult to try to, vaccinate the population as well as, currently respond to COVID-19, if that makes sense. So if they would have sent vaccine as well as an army of people to vaccinate as well, it would have been extremely helpful.
So some of our ability to get the vaccine rolls around our ability to actually administer it.
Correct. And it's not just us locally at public health, it's it's everyone. Everyone in our county, and I would say the same rolls true throughout the state of Texas. Mm-hmm.
So when we expect to get our next round of vaccine?
So we will hopefully know. Usually they dole out those allocations on the weekend. So we have, we're hoping to finish up our 1A this week in the next couple of days, and we are hoping to start our 1B by the end of this week.
Okay. So percentage-wise, are we kind of getting the same percent that other counties are getting? Do you have any idea?
I don't have any idea. I can look on the vaccine allocation website, but really I don't have any idea. I will tell you that there are some counties that haven't received a whole lot of vaccine at all. I mean, the vaccine it's in a really short supply. I mean, I do feel fortunate for the vaccine that we have received. I will tell you that.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. Mary Beth, thank you. Thank you for all the hard. You and your folks.
And I'll keep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Right. 1.1, discuss, consider department update, Chambers County EMS.
Austin, do I have access to share my screen already?
Yeah, you should.
How to install it yourself, or you can hire a company to You might, you might have to check.
Can y'all see my screen?
No, sir, not yet.
How about now?
Yeah.
Okay. So first off, welcome to the new year for 2021 Commissioners Court. Thank y'all for allowing me to give my county updates. Chambers County EMS. My name is Ron Nichols. I'm the Director of Emergency Service for Chambers County. And this is kind of, well, let me change my slides. All right. So on August 13th of last year, and it actually, the conversation started well before that, but that's when Commissioners Court voted to merge Anahuac EMS and Trinity Bay EMS into Chambers County EMS, with the exclusion of EMS, now Bellevue EMS, to allow them to continue to be independent organizations. September 10th is when Commissioners Court took a vote after interviews and hired me as the director for Chambers County EMS with an official start date of October 1st. Some of those expectations that were talked about during my interview and during the initial Commissioners Court was budget, protocols, procedures, policies, medical director, schedules, software, employees to hire, doing the billing services, and all of those other things that we discussed in Commissioners Court. There were the expectations of getting Chambers County EMS up and running. October 1st was my official start date. By the first Commissioners Court after that, we had established and approved the Chambers County EMS budget at Commissioners Court, worked with the purchasing office to develop the RFP for the medical director and the billing services to get that going. Obviously, the protocols, policies, and procedures were all weighing on when we actually got a medical director hired. The medical director has to sign off and approve all of that stuff to complete the paperwork for DSHS. So I started working on creating the protocols, the policies, the procedures, hiring the medical director, hiring the billing service to establish that, the hiring guidelines, the committee to provide the interviews, to hire all of the admin staff. And we did all of that. Our committee for the interviews for the admin staff was Ryan Holzapple, Bill Bola, and Randy Berlin. They were the ones that did the interviews and scored everybody that was hired as supervisors and deputy supervisors for Chambers County EMS. So I want to thank them for that process. On the 6th of January, we actually hired the supervisors and deputy supervisors. They spent about a month in the office with me every day, 8 to 5. Started working on the transition, getting introductions to the local facilities, to San Diego Methodist, to Bayside, the other facilities in the Chambers County, different providers, and started working on completing a thorough review of all the protocols, policies, procedures. We developed skills and protocol tests for all the potential employees, and as we move forward, and started reviewing all the applications and posting for these for the full-time staff that we would hire and part-time staff we were going to hire as Chambers County EMS. On March 30th of 2020, we received a phone call and we were inspected by DSHS, and an hour later became a licensed EMS service for the state of Texas. On March 31st, Chambers County EMS went into operations. Initially, when we had these discussions, I explained to everyone that this was anywhere from a 6 to a 12-month process. Generally, it takes about 9 months to get an EMS license. We were still managed to get our EMS license about 3 months ahead of schedule. And we're able to hit our goal date of April 1st of 2020. We were able to get all the medics hired and put in place during the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. As everyone knows, the disaster was declared on March 12th of 2020, which created some unique challenges trying to get medics to come in to leave their full-time jobs and their careers to come to work for Chambers County EMS. We're very proud of the team that we've built. We have over 180 years of experience with all of the full-time medics that we have at Chambers County EMS with our 15 full-time staff. And most of the staff left other long-term jobs and careers from other 911 service and providers to come join the Chambers County family. We started conducting some daily training with all of our medics. We were able to conduct a modified virtual orientation to make sure everybody was up to date on policies, procedures, and protocols, and to ensure that they were ready to provide the services for Chambers County EMS. We were able to get all of our vehicles from Anahuac and Trinity Bay EMS registered to Chambers County with the assistance of the purchasing department and the tax office. And we were able to do all that even while those offices were closed due to the pandemic. And with the assistance of the purchasing department, we've been able to adapt the EMS service to some of the county policies, and they've worked really hard to accommodate us for immediate needs and kind of adapt the purchasing policies to fit the needs of EMS with emergency purchases, things of that nature. So they've been working really well with us. So for disaster response, so for the first time in Chambers County, we actually had dedicated full-time employees for all of our disaster responses, and it worked out pretty well considering we had 5 that we responded to this year. So it allowed us to staff all 4 ambulances and have reserves capable of assisting with staffing shelters or other needs that may come up in the county. So the disasters that we stood up for in 2020 were COVID-19, Hurricane Laura, Hurricane Marco, Tropical Storm Beta, and Hurricane Delta. We went into service at the upstart of the COVID-19 pandemic, and everything that we did and when we initially got our license basically revolved around that. We had shortages in PPE just like everybody else across the country. We were able to use Enterprise and some of the other local plants to provide all of our medics with respirators, get some Tyvek suits, disinfectant supplies, and some other resources to ensure that not only our medics stayed safe, but so did the community. We were able to assist some of the local facilities with resources when they needed them. We also were able to assist the local fire departments with PPE needs as they need them as well until the state allocations and the federal allocation PPE started coming in. We have had to continuously adjust our protocols and our policies in order to stay current with the best medical practices and as well as follow all of the CDC and the DSH guidelines. And we've done that across the board with the other EMS services as well, which has helped us kind of keep that cohesion across the county to we're all providing the same services during the pandemic. We've been able to maintain 2 paramedic MIC units and a supervisor on duty, even with the lack of PRN staff and employee quarantine. At one point, Chambers County EMS had 7 full-time employees on quarantine at one time with a full staff of 15, and we were still able to maintain our minimal staffing levels during that process. Because of COVID-19 in the beginning, towards the middle of March, a lot of agencies across the region restricted any part-time access, part-time employment. Mount Bellevue did it, Winnie did it. We even did it here in Chambers County EMS after we started too, because we weren't sure how the exposures were going to work. We were still learning all of that. So if it wasn't for the actual formation of Chambers County EMS and be able to get the license the way we did, it could have resulted in the lack of 911 services in Anahuac and in the Beach City and Cove area. At one point in the beginning of March, middle of March, our supervisory staff that had been hired early were actually working on the trucks to keep those trucks staffed until we could get the license and get up and running. And that went on all the way through June, I believe it was. So we've had very lack of access to PRN staff. We were able to put some software in place through approval with the court to do extensive contact tracing and tracking of all of our COVID-19 exposures. As a EMS organization, per the federal mandates and Ryan White law, we're required to track every COVID-19 exposure and track it just like we would if it was a needle stick for HIV or hepatitis or anything else. It's a reportable condition, and we have some extensive tracking we have to do. So we were able to put software in place to allow us to do that, monitor our patients, monitor our employees' symptoms, and track those exposures and make sure that they're being protected. So as of December 31st, with our numbers, we have actually transported or come in contact with 331 confirmed COVID-19 patients. And we had another 118 that were flagged as potential COVID-19 patients that actually tested negative. So that's the exposure the medics have had in the last 9 months to COVID-19 at Chambers County EMS. For our hurricane responses, we were able to ensure that all 4 ambulances were staffed pre-event so that in case we did have a disaster, those ambulances were ready to go to provide services immediately after that. During Hurricane Laura especially, we assisted with the evacuation of several residents as well as the local nursing home with their evacuations. We assisted with the transfer and evacuation at some of the local hospitals as well and taking those patients out. We were able to utilize our staff and we contacted every person on the 211 list, which initially was about 340 people. And I think in the middle of Laura, it updated to almost 700. We're able to go through that 211 list, make sure it was updated, correct it, and we're able to contact every person on that list that answered the phone to find out if they needed assistance with evacuation. And we also arranged for the admission of 3 hospice patients into a local nursing home during Hurricane Laura so that they had somewhere safe to stay and had medical care during the disaster. And we also arranged for the transport from home to the nursing home and back home again after the disaster was over. We were able to organize and plan response for all of the local responders in the county, as well as the volunteers that came in from around the state. We were able to do that by coordinated effort with communication We had daily conference calls with all of the volunteer fire departments and EMS organizations in Chambers County, as well as some of the hospitals, to ensure that everybody knew what was coming, what the weather was going to be like, and what the plan was going forward as far as our disaster response and preparations throughout all of the events. We made sure our first responder organizations, we created an IEP for the first time that's been done in Chambers County, created an incident action plan that was distributed to all of our volunteer fire departments to make sure everybody was on the same page as far as radio channels, staging locations, who was the command, who was going to be in fire command, who was going to be the EMS and medical command, staging command. We had all of that planned out and made sure we followed the ICS structure and the safety plan so that everybody was on the same page during those responses. Our first year numbers. So as I said, with COVID-19, it's caused a lot of changes that we've had to adapt to. One of those was that we get pretty randomized call volume. And I've been giving my monthly updates to the Commissioner's Court to explain that. We have some months we'll do 200 calls, and another month we might only do 120. It's been very randomized, and it depends on, honestly, it's been going off of the peak and not peaks of COVID-19, just kind of depends on how it works. So between March 31st, 2020 and December 31st of 2021, Chambers County EMS ran a total of 1,845 calls for the year, which was about 22% fewer than we projected for that 9-month period. This is the breakdown of the calls to give you an idea. So assist public, that would be, if somebody called 911 and because a young lady had fallen and just needs help because she slid out of her wheelchair, that's what a public assist is. Canceled prior to arrival obviously means that we were canceled by dispatch before we arrived on scene. Canceled on scene means that we arrived on scene and there was no injuries or the patient didn't meet any type of criteria to be actual patient. So those are canceled. Dead on scene. Evaluated, no treatment transport required. A lot of MVAs we run on the highways, those are patients that were in minor MVAs and might have minor damage to their vehicle, but don't have any complaints and don't want to be transported to the hospital. That's what those are for. Transferred to air medical. We flew out 18 patients last year. Transported 1,148 patients total. We did 7 special events throughout the year, even with COVID-19 pandemic as well, where we provided additional services for some type of special event, whether it be the flu drive-throughs for Chambers County and other situations. So that was our total numbers for the year. Our first year budget. So we were budgeted a total of $3.5 million for 2020, which included capital purchases of monitors, 2 ambulances, and some other things. As of December 31st, our total expenses for the year were $2.5 million. That is even with an average increase in supply cost of about 23%. All of our gloves, all of our anything PPE related, oxygen related equipment, airway related equipment have all increased by anywhere from 18 to 25% in the last 6 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And we also had a pretty significant reduction in call volume, which also, reduced our first year revenue. Our first year revenue, based on the spreadsheet that I just received from EmergiCon last week, was approximately $224,000, about 17% less than projected, which was due to the lower call volume. And all of those numbers meet the national standard or the national numbers that are being put out by most EMS agencies for the end of year revenue. I provided a management summary from EmergiCon so that you guys kind of have an idea of where we're at. These are our gross charges. This is from September through December. This was our total gross charges. Were $430,000. Our total cash collections were $149,000. Our gross charge per trip is about $1,550. So that's about our average bill is $1,550, which is about $1,000 less than the national average. Our cash collections per trip has increased about $539 per transport, which is well above the national average. National average is about $420. This is the payor mix and breakdown between Medicare, Medicaid, and those numbers right there. The different types of level of service. So did it skip a page on y'all? Oh, there it is. Well, I think it's skipping a slide on the screen. So do y'all see the level of service screen? Or do y'all see the 4-month look back?
4-month look back.
Okay. It's showing different on my different computer monitor, so I'm making sure I was showing the right one. So the level of service, to kind of give you an idea, so a BLS call is just basically means somebody might have a sprained ankle, they might have fallen with a couple bruises, and they just basically need some monitoring and transport to the hospital. An ALS call means we did something ALS, which means we started an IV. We might have given you a medication for nausea or some pain medicine or something of that nature. ALS level 2 means you're really sick. We were doing CPR. We possibly had to provide an advanced airway, give multiple medications, and give multiple treatments. So that's the breakdown in the calls and how it works. As you can see, usually this is going to be about a 50-50 split between ALS versus BLS. One of the things that we've noticed during the COVID-19 pandemic is that our ALS level calls have increased substantially. And this is also in line with the national average. Because of the fear of being transported to the hospital and because of the fear of COVID-19, people didn't want to go to the hospital. So they've been waiting much longer than they usually do to call 911 for treatment or go to the regular doctor's office and go to the clinics, which has resulted in us having a much higher ALS level skill calls. So that's kind of the breakdown on the difference in calls. So this is a 4-month look back to kind of give you an idea. So our gross charges for the first 4 months between May and August was about 526 with a cash collections of 72. The numbers are kind of skewed a little bit, and the reason being is because we didn't actually get our Medicare license until the end of June, July, and our Medicaid licensing, because of the slowdown with COVID-19, did actually not go into effect until October. So we actually, the 4 months between September and December, we actually got a large influx of money from CMS because of our Medicaid credentialing finally being completed through Washington, D.C. But as you can see, our cash collections have actually increased. And like I said, that's only because of the Medicaid that'll probably even out over the next 6 months to a year. Our actually cash per transport has increased as well. That's went up and increased significantly. And that's even with our volume going down in the 4-month periods. Our payer mix is pretty close to being the same. Medicaid's increased, Medicare has gone down. These fluctuate from month to month, so it's kind of hard to tell. And then one of the good things is over the last 4-month period, our ALS runs and BLS runs are starting to even out a little bit better where we would like to see them. So we've been in a lot of public campaigns through the Southeast Texas Regional Advisory Council, as well as our local RAC-R, trying to convince people to go to the hospital and go to the doctors and receive those normal treatments they would get. Our Emtf deployments. So we signed the MOU in August with the Southeast Texas Regional Advisory Council and the DSHS in the state of Texas for the Emtf. Chambers County EMS was tasked with a state mission on 10/22 to El Paso, Texas, to assist with COVID-19 transport. We provided the staffed ambulance with a paramedic MICU unit to do transfer of patients from the local hospital to the mobile medical tent. Basically, if you look in the picture on the bottom left, that was the staging area. The red fence part is the hot zone. That's where the patients came in and came out of the MMU. And that's where we brought them in and out of. And all of the patients that were actually in the tent city that you see there were actually positive COVID-19 patients that we were trying to wean off of oxygen to get them to be able to be discharged and go home. We assisted in over Chambers County EMS and the other units that were there actually assisted with over 270 transfers during that 6-week period. And we also did several transfers from the local hospital to an airfield to fly patients out via private aircraft and fixed wing aircraft. So we were able to do that. Currently, per DSHS, we're waiting on the final tabulation of numbers, but our reimbursement from DSHS is going to be near about $132,000 is what we're reimbursed from DSHS. Total expenses for the deployment, which we're still trying to calculate a couple extra things, is anywhere from $111,000 to $115,000, I believe. We're just trying to fix a couple numbers to make sure that data is actually accurate. So the way the state reimbursement works, we talked about this before, but the state reimburses us for everything. It's a net neutral event. So if we do deploy, the state reimburses us at a minimum of our costs. So they reimburse you for the salaries, whatever the cost of the benefits are for those employees, whether they're the deployed employees or the backfill. Any overtime expenses, incidental expenses like our fuel expenses. They also reimburse us for any, like while we were in El Paso, the truck actually hit a pothole, had a cracked rim and a tire. That's reimbursed by the state as well because the truck was actually dispatched on a deployment. And it also covers for the same benefits, salaries, and overtime for all of the backfill of any employees that were covering the shifts for the medics that are actually deployed. We're currently assigned an ambulance to a strike team in Del Rio for COVID-19. Much different operation than the guys we're used to in El Paso. They're provided transporting positive COVID-19 patients for 2.5 to 3 hour transports from Del Rio to as far as San Antonio to the northwest side of San Antonio. And all of these patients are mainly critical care patients. So they're on vents. They have extensive medication drips and things of that nature that they're transporting those patients and treating those patients. And they were tasked with that on January 3rd. I just got word yesterday. The anticipation is that deployment will be extended out at least an additional 2 weeks because of the extensive call volume. Those trucks are actually doing 7 to 7.5 hour calls, and they're doing upwards of 2 a day each. So it's getting pretty extensive out there. So as far as the fire departments and other EMS, all of the funding packets were mailed out at the beginning of October. To date, we've received all of our funding packets with the exception of 2 departments that had some issues they had to fix on their funding packet. Everybody else has already received their money, or they're on the agenda today for approval. We also assisted the fire marshal's office and ordered Knox box key systems for all of the frontline apparatus within the fire department and EMS communities. These Knox box systems are boxes that go in the ambulance, they go in the fire trucks, in their responder vehicles, and that gives them access to get into the buildings that have a Knox box access, for them to be able to access that building in case of fire alarms or a fire, to be able to actually get into that business, in county buildings of that nature. And we're able to use pin entry through Wi-Fi and track that much better than we did before with just issuing keys. So we collaborated with Winnie EMS and Mount WS, like I said, to make sure we consolidated our policies during the pandemic to make sure that we were providing the same level of protection to all of our patients as well as to all of the residents within the county. So to just kind of summarize, Chambers County EMS was formed and went into service at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. This obviously has created several challenges for not only our staff, but for the citizens. We were able to adapt to the continuing change in guidance, the environment, to provide some of the best services in our region and ensure that we maintain staff and we provide the best 911 service we could provide. We concluded our first year actually under budget, even with the disasters, the additional payroll expenses from disasters, the deployments, and the additional expenses for quarantine for COVID-19. So at our family, Chambers County EMS team wants to say thank you to Judge Sylvia, Judge Sylvia, Commissioner Gore, Commissioner Tice, Commissioner Combs, and Commissioner Nelson, who helped us push all this stuff through. Welcome Commissioner Hammond to the, I look forward to having a conversation with you in the future, especially as my liaison. And we're going to continue to provide some of the best services in the region and continue to do what we're doing and make sure that the citizens of Chambers County have some of the best 911 services provided. And I'm available to answer any questions that you gentlemen may have.
All right. Ron, thank you for that update. Very good. Any questions for Ron on his PowerPoint, on what the EMS is doing, or on the 2 items? He has 19, 31, and 32 on the agenda to approve the 2021 medical director contract between Chambers County Emergency Medical Services and Dr. Cavaspor. Okay. And Dr. John Redmond, an amount of $12,000 each. And then the 2021 funding agreements with City of Mont Bellevue EMS and Beach City Volunteer Fire Department. So any questions about EMS overall or those 2 items? All right.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Ron.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's go to 1.2. Discuss, consider the application for countywide polling place program. Ms. Hawthorne's here.
Good morning. I hope you had time to read your packet and see what I'm asking you to do. I would like to apply to become a countywide polling place county. All of our surrounding counties are in the program. The program is you can only apply twice a year. There's only 4 counties of our size in the state that will get accepted on each application process. I think it's time. This would be a great thing for our voters on election day. We would cut down on the number of provisional voters that show up to the wrong polling location on election day. It would work just like early voting. You can vote anywhere in the county on election day.
Okay.
Heather,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, let me
just a quick question. Why
Okay.
does the state limit to only so many counties? Why wouldn't they do that statewide?
Because not all counties meet the requirements. Not all counties have internet in all of their locations. Not all counties are on the DRE system. So Billy, it's kind of probably antiquated at this point. This program's been going on a while, and you know, as technology improves around the state, especially county, they definitely wanted to limit the number of counties doing it. But as you can see, the list that I provided now, that there are a lot of counties in the program.
Yeah, I think it's a great program.
I do too. I've heard nothing but great things from my colleagues around the state that are in the program. It definitely, like I said, will help voters on election day, where if they're commuting and they're not going to make it back to their polling location by 7 p.m., they can just pull over and vote on the west side or the east side, etc. So I absolutely think it's good for the voters of Chambers County.
Sounds great.
Good. And I'm going to create a committee, and we'll have that on the next agenda, and the dates of the public hearings that have to be done for the application process. My goal is that we want to implement it in November with the constitutional amendment election, but have all the paperwork and everything completed by May so that we can get that off of our plate.
You don't need a motion out of us on this area. You're gonna bring it back.
I need a motion for you to approve me moving forward with the application to participate in the countywide polling program.
That'll be my motion, Judge.
I'll be my second, Your Honor.
Got it.
All right. Thank you. It's going to be
Thank you.
Love it. Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Judge.
Thank you, Heather.
Motion by Commissioner Gore. And I think you picked up mine, didn't I?
Commissioner Gore and Tice.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Tice. Any other questions, comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. I think that's great, county. All right, to 3.1 of the Road and Bridge, discuss and consider advertisement, set date of public hearing for February 9th, 2021 at 10 a.m. for the abandonment vacation of the county right-of-way known as Co-op Road located east of St. Martin Street, Winnie, Texas.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions?
Yeah, I do. I know we're just setting a public hearing date. I did get some information on this morning from Corey, but I'm still just a little bit confused as to why a county right-of-way is stopping someone from getting utilities. That's something I can get an answer to over the next few days, but unless somebody knows it off the top of their head.
I don't have a clue,
Good question, Billy.
I don't either.
except for a public hearing, so
Yeah.
we'll get
There's
that.
probably a legal E in there, Billy. Only thing I can figure out.
Okay.
All right, I got a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. You don't have that answer. All right, we're going to economic development tourism. You let BJ in. Austin. Commissioner Hammond, you having fun yet?
Yes, sir.
BJ should be on, Judge.
Hey, ask him right after he goes to school this evening.
Yeah. All right, BJ, can you hear me?
Yes, Judge, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. All right, BJ Simon, Baytown, West Chambers County Economic Development Foundation is on with us. BJ, I'm going to 5.1, public hearing, 10 a.m. regarding the Floor and Decor Outlets of America reinvestment zone. It's now 10:23 a.m. We will recess out of the regular session of Commissioners Court and go into a public hearing. There were no public comments presented to the court. Is there any public comments from the court at this time? Hearing none at 10:24, we will adjourn out of the public hearing, go back into regular session of Commissioners Court. 5.2, discuss and consider order establishing the Floor and Decor Outlets of America reinvestment zone. BJ.
Thank you, Judge. This is an order that's being presented to create the Floor and Decor reinvestment zone so as to enter into a tax abatement with Chambers County. Just by way of a reminder, Floor and Decor was introduced to the court back a couple of months ago as Project Falcon. It was a competitive project. Competing sites were in Baltimore, Maryland, and Savannah, Georgia. Their intent is to build a 1.5 million square foot distribution facility that's going to serve anywhere between 7 to 10 states and create up to 136 jobs. The proper notices were provided to the taxing entities and the public via newspaper. All notices were given and services required, and the designation of the reinvestment zone is required to move forward with establishing a tax abatement agreement with the county.
Will you explain the need for a reinvestment zone, BJ?
Yes, the reinvestment zone is required by statute so as to provide a basis of understanding the growth in value over time. There's a base value that's established in the footprint of the investment. In this case, it's 99.7 acres. The appraisal district becomes aware of the reinvestment zone. The comptroller's office is made aware of the value of the reinvestment zone as a base value. And as that value changes over time, the appraisal district tracks that, the comptroller tracks that. And then because of changes in legislation during the last session, that value or increase in value has to be reported by the appraisal district for 3 successive years post the end of the abatement contract.
Hey, BJ.
Hey, Commissioner, how are you?
Oh, good. Happy New Year.
Same to you. Same to you.
Can you let everybody understand that, I mean, one, you already did, that this is competing against other areas. 2, that it's not costing the county anything as far as infrastructure or anything like that to bring them in. So, I mean, with us giving this a base, I mean, in the long term, we're building our tax base and I mean, it's building to the future of this county. I mean, so.
You're correct, Commissioner. I couldn't have explained it better. These are essentially, as I've described them, take liberty to speak on behalf of the court, but these are investments in the county. And as the value continues to increase, the value rolls back onto the rolls, and these investments pay off over the long term, not only in physical infrastructure or physical facilities, but job growth as well.
But comparing our county with the tax abatements that they and the companies that we've aggressively attracted to the county, compared to other counties that haven't had the benefit of having tax abatement industry in their counties, I mean, a lot of them are really struggling compared to the us as a county, right?
That is correct, Commissioner. And they've been, somewhat aggressive. I know that to the folks who are unfamiliar, a tax abatement, a 10-year tax abatement or an abatement over 50% over time, is somewhat conservative compared to some of the other sites in other counties in Texas that are seeking to abate taxes. Chambers County competes not only against counties in Texas, but parishes in Louisiana and locales across the country. So for this project, for example, the establishing a distribution node in Cedar Port and to provide services in logistics distribution of product to 7 to 10 states is substantial. lays the basis for continued growth in the logistics and distribution and transportation and warehousing field. If I could share my screen, I have an example of that just to illustrate.
Yeah, go ahead, BJ. You should be.
All right. Very good. This is an overview of the transportation and warehousing sector in Chambers County as of the second quarter of 2020. And you'll note the employment in various sectors or subsectors of the general sector of transportation and warehousing. There are over 2,300 jobs associated with transportation and warehousing in Chambers County with an average wage of $61.1 thousand. This LQ is an abbreviation for location quotient. From an economics perspective, a location quotient over 1.5 indicates a significant competitive advantage in any area. So the fact that in this area, you have an average location quotient of 2.69, but specifically an 8.11 location quotient, speaks to the competitive advantage that Chambers County has in the logistics sector, nationally. So this is a 5-year history of the growth of the logistics sector in Chambers County. Going back, the employment change over a 5-year period was a 25.1% increase in logistics and distribution or transportation and warehousing jobs. It's really substantial. And then going forward, the annual growth is estimated to be 2.7%. And that was, of course, mid-COVID and I guess post or pre-establishment of some of these projects that the court has chosen to invest in.
I think it's worth pointing out also that several jobs or projects are actually getting scrapped and put on hold. So I think we are very, very fortunate to continue to be landing these type of projects. And this project in particular is a very good project for Chambers County. It adds, the inventory alone on this, the inventory tax alone adds substantially onto our tax rolls. I'd like to get several more.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, BJ, for that information.
Yes.
Thank you, BJ. Happy New Year.
Same to you, Commissioner.
All right. Any other questions for BJ? Not, I'll entertain a motion to create the reinvestment zone for Florida and the core outlets of America.
So moved, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Tice. Was that Commissioner Gore?
Combs, I think.
I'll second.
I think Commissioner Gore did.
Was it Gore?
No.
It's hard.
No, it was Commissioner Combs.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Tice, second by Commissioner Combs. No other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5.3, discuss and consider notice of public hearing regarding Florida Core Outlets of America Incorporated tax abatement agreement. BJ.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioners, this is a request simply to post a notice of public hearing, which is required by statute, so that to approve or discuss and consider approving the tax abatement agreement with Florida Core. There's a 30-day requirement, and so the next available court that the agreement contract could be presented for review and approval would be February 23rd.
No.
February the 23rd, Tuesday, February 23rd at 10 a.m.
That's correct.
Entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Gore. Questions on the public hearing? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 5-4. Discuss, consider Plastic Express Project Navy tax abatement application. PJ.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. This is another logistics related project that is submitting an application for tax abatement for a proposed project that would commence in May of this year. What's being proposed is 820,000 square foot warehousing facility that would house a high-speed resin packaging operation, very similar to a number of operations that are currently in Chambers County: Bravago, Venmar, PPB, Plantistics, KTN, and others. Just by way of reminder, this project that was discussed with the court back in 2019, they've been in due diligence for quite some time. Initially, what was envisioned was 1.6 million square foot of or square feet of warehousing space, and so they finally moved forward and are moving forward with half that capacity. The project would create at least 100 new full-time jobs, between 90 and 150 jobs by 2026. And I did not have an opportunity to illustrate the proposed economic impact. I may try to share my screen with you one more time. As has been the practice in the past, we've tried to provide some insight to the court as to the economic impact of various projects. And as I've noted, the two variables that are noted for this project are square footage and the job creation. But this is a sort of a mid, using 100 full-time jobs of the range between 90 and 150. The economic impact and compensation would be 5.7 million. The indirect and induced impacts are noted through here for a total impact of $20.1 million. You'll note that the indirect and direct and induced impacts are cited here. I know that we have a new commissioner, and just want to share how these things are calculated. Can you see this, Judge? This is
Yes, sir.
all right. This is a 39-page report, which I'm not going to go through all 39 pages, but the basis for these calculations as to what impact does 100 jobs have in the Chambers County economy, both directly, indirectly, and induced. And you can see how a dollar for each dollars of investment have ripple effects throughout the economy. So these are some of the examples with respect to restaurants, medical operations, supermarkets, home health care, office of physicians, nursing care, freight and transportation, on and on and on. So there are various NAICS and categories of direct and induced impacts of these jobs in Chambers County. So the fact that you're having these jobs resident daily on a daily basis in Chambers County has significant economic impact. And I'll be glad to share this with Commissioner Hammond just for his own edification. So what's presented today is the application for consideration to accept the application, and then we'd come back with recommendations with regard to potential incentives.
I'll move to accept the application.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Questions?
I just want to clarify, we are not, all we're doing today is accepting the application. We are not setting the amounts of any abatements today.
Yes, sir. All right, I got a motion second. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. BJ? Here, I think that's all you had on the agenda.
Yes, thank you very much, Judge, Commissioner.
Thank you, BJ.
Thank you,
Take care.
BJ.
Thanks, BJ.
And I really think that what's going on in the energy sector right now, that the logistics, if we can keep those coming in, keep the county moving in the right direction. All right, it's 10:37 a.m. Let's take 8 minutes and come back at 10:45.
Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Well, okay, Chambers County Commissioner Court come to order after short break. It's 10:45 a.m. Parks and Recreation 6.1. Discuss and consider renaming the Double I Park in honor of the late former Constable Chester Humphrey. I talked to Samantha yesterday, and I think that's something we really should do. I'd like to see it named the Chester Humphrey Double Barrel Park. I'd like to leave Double Barrel in there and just add Chester Humphrey name to it.
You need a motion. You need a motion here, Your Honor?
Sure.
So moved, Judge.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Tice, second by Commissioner Gore. I think he was a 15-year constable, and he did a lot for the community down there. So,
I've heard nothing but good, Judge.
all right, I got a motion and a second. Any questions? And that was for the Chester Humphrey Double Barrel Park.
Correct.
All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8.1, discuss and consider reconditioning equipment number 653, compactor tractor through Mustang Cat for $351,740.01. You have questions on that? Do we need to get Eddie on the phone?
No, that's still quite a bit cheaper than a new machine.
Yeah, and that's what we had budgeted for last year.
Yes.
Oh, due to the COVID. It's got to be done, I know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a complete rebuild. It's like new, and they give a pretty good warranty with that as well. So, I mean, I'll make a motion. We go ahead and approve it, Judge.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Hammond. Any questions?
No, I just want to make a comment. It's not really got to do with that. I'm perfectly fine with what he's doing. But when we get these budget numbers that's put into it, the grades and stuff, we can't see it. Is there any way that we could just have it printed out numerically where it says, hey, I got a budget of 200,000. I've used 100,000. This is going to be 20,000. So I just can't read these things sometimes.
Yeah, Eric.
Yeah, Judge, I'll see what we can provide with the rec and see what we can do on that side of it.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and you understand what he's talking about, something simple to.
Right.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Okay, good. All right, I got a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Airports 13.1, discuss and consider changing hangar 316G from a one plane hangar to a two plane hangar at the Anahuac Airport. You got a letter in your packet. I don't know if everyone understand that. Do we need to get Stephen on the phone?
Does anybody know, we're going to change it from a one hanger to a two hanger, but we're cutting the rate in half. So basically we're getting the exact same rent out of putting two in it that we were getting for putting one in it. If I'm reading that right. Jimmy, do you know what's going on that?
Why they're doing it, Billy, I consider it, nobody's alerted me on it, but I was thinking about the revenue. It appears to be a push unless I'm wrong.
I talked to him about it, but it's been a couple of weeks ago, so I told him on the agenda. Let's see if we can get him on the phone. Give me just a second.
There's got to be a reason for it.
I don't know. Probably code blue. Wouldn't be the first time. Lauren's getting him on the phone, so we'll get him. Austin, can you get?
And I'm thinking that they've already got two planes in there now. Let me just let him explain.
I think he was just trying to get an extra plane or something in there just to get more activity, more fuel sales. But
I think so.
That's what it.
Okay, good morning, Steve. For the record, Stephen Fingerhut, the airport director, is on the line. We explained 13.1, your 13.1 item for the court, please.
Okay, was that the item to combine the hangar?
Correct, 316G from one plane hangar to two.
That hangar is able to take two planes. There's two planes in it now. By allowing two people to be in that hangar, we won't lose any money, but it'll help two people splitting the rent, which a lot of people are doing anyway, is splitting the rent. So we essentially gain another spot for an airplane by having that one plane hangar in the two, and then it opens up another hangar for rent.
Okay, questions?
Would we be administering it, or would it be just the person that's got it rented, just allowing another plane to park in it? Or would we actually have a separate lease?
I'm sorry.
All right, so we would lease two spots at 150 each. The county would lease them?
Yes, sir. Two spots at 150 each instead of one spot at 300.
Okay.
And is it under one contract and he's subbing it out to, or is it two?
No, it's two contracts, correct,
Okay.
Stephen?
Yes, sir. Two contracts,
Okay.
50 rather than one for 300.
All right.
And just curious, why would we not charge a little bit extra instead of cutting it in half? Why?
Good question.
I'm sorry. I can't.
Why wouldn't we charge more instead of just cutting it in half?
Because it's a community hangar now, and that's what's been done. So if it's a community hangar, it's 150 a month. And if it's a private hangar, it's 300.
Okay.
We really only have one hangar that is really a one-person plane here, and we charge 300 for that.
So right now, our rate is 150 each for a community hangar.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
That answered it.
Any other questions?
I'm good, Judge.
All right, entertain a motion.
Wait for approval.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Tice. No other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, take care.
Welcome to the county, Steve.
He said, welcome to the county, Steve.
Oh, thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
All right, Kat's up next. Did you get her, Austin? We need to try to call her.
I forwarded her the information. She hasn't responded yet.
Okay, that's, let's go ahead and go to consent. Start out with Jimmy. Commissioner Gore. Or you want to text her and tell her to look at the. Anything on the consent, Commissioner Gore?
I spoke with Aaron yesterday on number 24, Judge, on the West Side Tax Office.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to make sure where we was drawing money from. I didn't know if it was out of the budget of 600,000 or it was out of that 50,000, but I think that 50,000 was for design. But I was just wanting clarification where that money was coming from. But I mean,
Commissioner, I had that same conversation with Mike yesterday, and he was supposed to check into it and get back with me because I was kind of thinking that the 50,000 was supposed to include surveying also.
yeah.
But
And then,
Mike didn't think so, and I never did get a response back from Mike.
yeah, and I was curious, and I asked, because I knew we had a 600,000 budget, and I think Aaron said that was construction budget, and I wanted to make sure where our budget money was coming from on FF&E out of there as well.
Okay, so did Aaron ever get your question answered, Jimmy?
Probably not.
Somewhat.
I mean, it can come, if it's not covered in the 50,000, it needs to come out of 600. It's part
Yeah,
of,
but his understanding, his explanation to me that the 600,000 was just a construction budget.
This is part of the construction as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I
But
thought
I
that was
mean,
my understanding.
That 600,000, I mean, if it doesn't include FF&E, I mean, that's going to cut that budget of that building down $120,000 probably.
Aaron, were you gonna say something?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I thought my understanding from when it was first presented was that 600 was for just the construction and not the FF&E and all the other parts of it. Unless, that's what my understanding was for the project.
Mine too.
With Mike to confirm if you want me to. But I thought 600 was just for the construction of the building, and that's it.
Aaron, that's also my understanding that the 600 is for construction and not the FF&E. But I agree with the judge, surveying is a part of the construction cost.
I agree.
Should
So,
be.
I mean, this would be covered, but we still got the FF&E we still got to deal with one way or the other.
Yeah, and we do, and we'll have to consider that one. We came up with that $600,000 budget to renovate, and then we moved it over to build, which made sense.
And square footage, I agree.
All right, so Aaron, let's take it out of there.
Yes, sir.
600,000. All right, anything else, Commissioner?
No, sir, I'm good on everything else. I reached out to everybody. I appreciate it.
Okay, all right. Kat, you there? All right, Nicole Green, the HR Director. We're going to your items. Under Personnel 18.1, discuss and consider approval of extension of paid leave. Employees exposed or quarantined due to COVID-19. Kat.
Due to the FFCRA.
Can you?
I can't hear, Judge.
All right, Kat, can you dial in to join the Zoom meeting? Yeah, that makes it a whole lot easier to hear each other. All right, if you'll do that, thank you. All right, precinct 2, we'll go back to consent. Commissioner Tice.
Judge, the only thing I wanted to discuss was 24, and we've already crossed that.
All right, precinct 3, Commissioner Hammond.
Oh, sir, I'm good on everything.
Precinct 4, Commissioner Combs.
And on item number 9, it's about the only one I didn't get an answer on. That's the lease agreement on the airport. I always want to make sure that's the same form that we had looked at and that Scott Hill had actually changed and approved. Make sure, I think it is the same form, but it shows the start date of September the 1st, 2019. And I just wanted to see why start date of September 1st, 2019 is on there. That would have been on page 226, I believe.
What page of the lease agreement, Billy?
It's on our agenda page 226.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I didn't catch that. I don't know. So we'll have to ask the, we'll send that over to the county attorney's office and ask them about that start date. That's on page 3 of the lease agreement. All right, we'll send it over and get that answer. Anything else, Billy, on there?
No, that was the only thing. That and number 24 that Commissioner.
All right, so we'll come back to, what number was that?
Number
9. We'll come back to number 9. Come back to consent. Kat's in now. Good morning, Kat.
Good morning.
Okay, now let's go to 18.1. Consider approval of extension of paid leave to employees exposed or quarantined due to COVID-19. Kat.
Okay, so in March 2020, the FFCRA was passed in order to allow paid leave for everyone who was exposed or unable to attend work due to COVID-19. And it allowed up to 14 days and in some instances longer for paid leave for employees. It was not extended past the 31st of December of 2020. However, with the uptick of cases and with the continued cases that are going on, this puts a lot of our employees at potential hardship due to the fact that some of our employees are new employees, they do not have benefits, or they've exhausted their benefits. With this being said, I am requesting local approval of extending that paid time for employees who have been exposed or currently exposed and out due to COVID-19. I have reached out to other counties, and it is going county by county. At the moment, my letter is requesting for the extension in reference to employees who have not yet been quarantined. However, just a general extension could also be considered. Just a general extension for all employees. I put an expiration date of June of 2021 in hopes that things kind of slow down by that time, but if not, to revisit it in June of 2021 and possibly extend it through the end of the year.
Yeah, and you can revisit it at any time that you need to between now and then.
Correct. If things start to slow down, then it'll probably something that I put, place on court again to, shorten that. But I figured June was a good time frame.
All right, so I think you might have put it in here, but tell the court you only get 1 2-week coronavirus leave, correct? That's not 1 a year; it's 1 2-week period.
Correct.
Okay. So if someone got 2 weeks last year and they get quarantined again this year, they won't get the COVID pay.
Correct.
But
anyone, like people that are out currently, they are at this moment, unless this is approved, they will have to use their benefit time because there was not an extension in the FFCRA. So if we currently have employees out as of 1/1/2021, it'll go against their benefit time if this is not approved.
Yeah, I know there's rumors that the new regime
would this be retroactive?
We'll get it extended and backdated to January 1 is what I'm hearing anyway.
Yes, that's what I'm requesting.
I agree, Judge.
Entertain a motion.
I'd read my motion, Judge.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Commissioner Gore, second by Commissioner Tice to extend the paid leave employees exposed or quarantined due to COVID-19 through June 30th, 2021. Any other questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 18.2, discuss and consider approval of repositioning of Secretary 2 position under Constable's Office. Kat? Did you want this in executive session or is it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll take 18.2 to executive session. 18.3, discuss and consider the request to transition to direct deposit, payroll, and electronic payment advice delivery.
So with us having to close down and with the year that we had in 2020, with the natural disasters and with COVID-19, there were a lot of issues in reference to payroll. Payroll right now is a very manual process. And I know it was discussed with Commissioner's Court and over the last 6 months of, the possibility of moving over to electronic payroll. In advance of this, what I would like to do is go ahead and transition to direct deposit only unless there is an employee who's unable for some reason to do this, then we will make alternative options for them, which is basically a paper check. The reasons for this is it'll just make things a lot easier. When we had a couple of those natural disasters, we had to take our printers with us, and some of our employees had to evacuate. The treasurer's office had to hold a lot of paper checks because the post offices were closed down. So being able to have direct deposit is a better option for us. Everyone in the county is enrolled in the employee self-service, which allows them to go online and retrieve their W-2s and their pay history from the time they started with the county. Currently, we are printing anywhere between 150 and 175 pay advices to be mailed out. Not a lot of the employees actually look at those pay advices. Being able to send those to them electronically would cut down on the time spent printing them and mailing them out, and it'll also cut down on the amount of postage that's being used every 2 weeks, because it's anywhere between 100 to 150, sometimes more, to mail out those pay advices that are available electronically and through ESS.
Hey, Kat,
Yes, sir.
but this will also help you as well as calculating pay rates and everything as well, because my understanding, discussing it with you and Chelsea, it's very time consuming. Y'all having to calculate everything as well, right?
Well, that is in reference to when we transition to electronic payroll, which is what we're hoping to do within the next couple of months, is transition to electronic payroll. Currently, currently our timesheets are all paper timesheets,
Yes.
not to mention all of the daily logs that are involved in that. So we have to manually calculate overtime, adjusted overtime time rates. We have to manually input leave, so on and so forth. So this is in advance of that transition. For example, during Hurricane Laura, like I mentioned, our payroll administrator had to evacuate, and she had to evacuate with over 1,000 pieces of paper and her printer in order to print out checks. And then the treasurer's office had to stay behind because post offices and everything like that was closed. So a lot of those checks, those paper checks, were hand delivered to employees to ensure that they were able to receive their checks. So it'll eliminate that in cases of disaster, so on and so forth. Being able to direct deposit their paychecks is a better option, especially with disasters.
Kat, I want to say I'm very much in favor of doing this, but you did say that there would be a few employees that maybe for some reason could not. We'd have to do paper checks for them. Why couldn't we do a debit card payroll and make that option available also?
We can make that option available. Currently, we work with Anahuac National Bank, and they offer fee-free banking, and they offer alternative options for them. I say paper check because a lot of them rather the paper check, but Anahuac National, and I did not get their flyer in time to send to everyone, but Anahuac National and several other of the local banks do offer debit cards and free checking for county employees. So those, we have the option to do a debit card if that employee rather that instead of a paper check.
Do you have any idea what checks we're sending out?
We're sending out between 15 and 22, I believe. I have to go back and check, but between.
Okay, well that's good. I didn't have a clue what the number would be.
Right. It's paper check wise, we're sending out between 15 and 25. The largest amount of things that we send out are the paper advices. So there's everyone's pay stubs, and we send out between 150 and 175 of those.
Oh, you're sending their pay stub out instead of
right.
Paper. Okay.
Right.
Interesting.
I think this would probably sometime lead to electronic time entry also.
Yes.
Down the road.
That is what
Next
I'm hoping
step.
to. That is something that I'm hoping to move forward within the next 2 months. We are going to have electronic pay, timesheets and fully electronic payroll process within the next 2 months.
Way more efficient.
Yes, sir. Currently, it takes us 4 days to process payroll from start to finish, and moving in this direction, it'll cut that 4 days and the man hours down to a day and a half to 2 days. There are many times that we are processing payroll and we are here until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it pretty much puts us off limits to anybody coming in or calling and stuff like that because it's such a lengthy process. And that is with 3 people working on it. It still takes 4 days to process. So it'll be a more efficient and more cost effective.
Well, on behalf of Chambers County employees, we appreciate y'all working to get us paid.
That's not even including any kind of disaster pay or anything like that. That's just regular pay, right, Kat?
Correct.
Judge, if we need a motion, I'll make a motion that we move.
I need a motion. Motion by Commissioner Gore,
Second.
second by Commissioner Hammond to transition to direct deposit payroll and electronic payment advice delivery. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Kat. If you want to just stay on,
Thank you.
go to executive session in just a few minutes, so just hang on there. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Did we get
Hello,
anything
Judge.
number 9?
What? Oh, what?
Do we get an answer on number 9?
Oh, wait, yeah, we got to go back to number 9. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Entertain a motion, yeah.
Thank you, Billy.
You can read a letter. Approve pending minor changes by the county attorney's office, and they will correct that.
Thank you.
So
Motion for approval, Judge, with that noted.
you want to approve the whole consent agenda with a note on number 9?
Yes, sir.
All right, motion by Commissioner Gore,
Second.
second by Commissioner Combs. No other questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, this time it's 11:14 a.m. We're going to go to executive session on 18.2 and then on 20.1, discuss and consider personnel issues, and 20.2, discuss and consider authorization of county representative to take part in tax auction for purchase of real property. It's 11:14 a.m. We'll recess to executive session. All right, court come to order after executive session. It's 12:20 p.m. Let's see. No action out of executive session on those items, and no action on, where is it? 18.2, thank you. No action on 18.2. There was one item on 19.5 on the job description. Right now it says the administrative assistant, and they have filled that position, by the way. Administrative assistant to safety director and emergency management coordinator and fire marshal. I don't know that's wise to have 2 different bosses. It's kind of like department heads that have 5 bosses. So previously the emergency management coordinator and fire marshal was who that position answered to, and then work together with other departments. So it's up to you. We can go back, we can make that correction, or we can leave it like it is.
It's on 19.5 under job descriptions.
19.5 under job description, page 203.
Yeah, there's a blank one.
No, there's a job description. It's a blank.
Yeah, there was a job description. Yes, sir.
And Amy Turner has been hired by Ryan and Glenn. I mean, it's up to you. We can leave it like it is. If there comes issue, we can address it.
Let's just do that, Judge. And
Okay, then we'll just leave it as is. All right, let's go to the supplemental. Go to the supplemental agenda. And number 1, there's only one, discuss, consider approving bond of Chambers County tax assessor collector.
Move for approval, Judge.
Second, Your Honor.
Motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Tice. Any questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With that, at 12:22 PM, we are adjourned. Commissioner Hammond, learn a lot.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, welcome, Tommy.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank
Enjoy your trip.
Thank you very much.
Be
Thanks,
safe,
Greg.
brother. Thank you.